Are a part of this larger portfolio. This is one of the sessions. It's called the Guide to Your Elevator Pitch. So we're going to spend some time, myself and my colleagues, going through how we prep you for a very important event that we will talk about shortly. Let's look at the agenda to kick us off. You're going to spend some time meeting myself and then meeting these two lovely people. We're going to talk about the Meet the Firms event that is happening on Wednesday. Hands down, the best event this university puts on. Okay, one of my favorites. We're going to go into the brand fundamentals. You hear us talk about brand a lot, and you know what that means as it relates to your favorite companies, right? Coca-Cola, Nike, Google, but we all have individual brands, right? And you don't know this, but you might. So your day-to-day behaviors and actions tell us a lot about your actual brand. We'll talk about those fundamentals, and we'll talk about why your personal brand is incredibly important and why you should focus on building it and then protecting it once you've built that brand, okay? Then we'll get into the particulars around the elevator pitch. Professor likes to give a very easy, simple to follow framework. If you're gonna spend a lot of time thinking about it in the moment, you're not gonna be as great executing on it if it's too complicated. So there's three main components of an elevator pitch, and we'll get into that. And then you will have some time to practice with each other. What we didn't tell you is that we're gonna hold you hostage. So once you're done practicing and you feel confident with each other, you're gonna practice with one of us, okay? Because we are experts, we're fantastic, right? I am a super, super pro, and they're close behind my heels, okay? They're getting just as good as I am, and sometimes I think they're a little bit better than me. I'm a little scared, okay? So without further ado, let's go into the introductions. Like I said, I am a professor here in the Business Administration Department. What's actually more interesting about me is prior to coming to Lewis University, I spent 15 years working in industry. I worked in companies where I actually owned the entire talent acquisition function. What that means is when you interview to work at that company, you had to interview with me or a person on my team. The reason why I mention this is everything that we go over in the Building Your Brand portfolio, all of it is the insider knowledge that I'm giving you of what recruiters actually want to see, think, and feel about you. Okay. And then of course I got that little tidbit in there about my favorite little dog. His name is Sir Alexander McQueen. We'll come back in a second and talk about why that little tidbit is important. Okay. I'm going to hand it over to my friend Rob, who's going to introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Rob. I'm a business administration and psychology double major. Also, I'm double minoring in theater and political science. And the reason I'm doing all that is because I was in the military for 11 years, so I get to go to school. The veterans pay for it. I was an operations clerk in the military, so I know a lot how to talk to people and stuff. Something that I like about networking is how small the world is. So you're going to meet a couple people around at Meet the Firms. I know a couple of them. One of them, his name is Burbridge. He's the recruiter for Argonne. He likes reptiles, so if you guys want to go into try out talking to him, that's a good way to start talking to him. I like exploring different parts of the environment. When I worked at Argonne, it's cool to just check everything out, get a little bit of know about everything, whatever company you're working at. Something that I learned at my internship though was, in the military you're kind of told what to do and you get a lot of guidance. In the business world, you're not really told what to do. You kind of just get thrown the work and they're like, figure this out and come back to me by tomorrow and tell me how you did it. So it's a lot of learn as you go, trial by fire maybe. And then something that I want to do next after all this is I want to go get my master's and eventually a PhD. And then something else I did, I went to see Tanqueray last week. So.
Excellent, nice to meet you, my friend. And I do want to highlight this because it's not just the military, right? In college, we set you up for success because we give you assignments, we give you rubrics, we give you due dates. That does not happen in the workplace, okay? So it's very, very different than when you're in college. They're going to give you the direction, and their expectation is you're going to execute, and that you don't need a whole bunch of hand-holding to execute. You can, of course, ask questions, but if they're finding every time they give you an assignment, you have 85 million questions, they're going to probably decide that you're not the person for that organization, okay? Thank you, Rob. Let's go to our friend Kashmeet.
Hi, everybody. This is Kashmeet. My major is business administration, and I'm minoring in international business. In spring 2025, I did my internship at Citgo, as you can see. What I like most about networking is interacting with different personality, as all of you are different people. You want to have different personalities too. What I like about my internship was it has a variety of work. I did like inventory management, customer surveys, and I gotta handle like the whole store. I trained people too. What I wish I knew going to my internship was, as Rob said, like you are expected to get work done even when those around you don't. And there's a tiny bit of micromanaging too that I had to deal with when I was interning at SETCO. And what's next for me is I might do another internship or I will go straight towards my master's. And fun tidbits about me, I went to see J-Hope from BTS.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, Kashmeet. Okay, let's jump on in. Before we do that, let's talk about the psychology of FOMO, right? The fear of missing out. Don't be the person who feels sad that you didn't go to Meet the Firms. Everybody's talking about Meet the Firms, how great it is, and you're experiencing FOMO because you missed it. Okay. Here is the flyer for Meet the Firms. It's happening this Wednesday in the flight deck, which is right down here. Okay. Please register for the event. We're not going to push you out if you don't, but it does really help us manage the flow into the room. The reason why this is one of my favorite events is that it's more smaller and it's more intimate. When you go to the career fair in March, there are dozens of employers that are there. It's in the field house. If you've ever been in the field house, it is large. We use the entire space in there. There's hundreds of students that are there, so it can feel a little bit intimidating. Meet the Firms, we intentionally put a head count on how many employers can come, and we give them the guidance that they are here to interact with you and talk with you and chat with you. Okay, so it feels a little bit, it's not being thrown in the deep end because you get to have this smaller, more intimate session. Do you guys agree with that it felt a lot smaller and intimate versus career fair?
It's smaller, it's a little bit more intimate. Recommended pick a topic you want to see and figure what table at, because the tables are numbered. Because if you don't have time to see them, you want to go to your next one then.
Yeah, so what he's saying is that you're going to do your research, you're going to make a list of the top 3 people you want to talk to. And you want to make sure that you prioritize talking to those 3 people because you might run out of time. And if you save your favorite employer for last, right, I'm going to let you know it's to 4:30. They start packing up their knickknacks at about 4:15, right? So make sure that you have a chance to talk to everybody. If for some reason you find yourself where you're just not making it to some of your employers and you need some help, you need to come up to me and say, hey, professor, I'm really trying to talk to CDW, but I can't seem to get through the line, okay? I'm going to show you a little bit of preferential treatment. Yep, I just said it. I'm not supposed to show you preferential treatment, but I'm going to do it. And I'm going to find a way to move you to the top of the line, okay, if you can't get to one of your top employers. Kashmeet always has a really good strategy, too, about how you prepare for your top employers. Share with them a strategy of what you do sometimes.
So basically go to the people that you are not like that much interested in. Like for example, you're gonna choose from here top 5 companies or top 3 companies.
Mm-hmm.
Go to them later. Go to other people first, like maybe like 2-3 people. And with that, you'll be like, it's like you'll get the gist of it. So it would be easier for you to like get into the people like whom you think like, oh, they're my best.
Really good strategy. So what she's saying is that try some other employers first so you can start to practice your pitch and get comfortable and confident with it. So by the time you go to your top employers, you hopefully have mastered your pitch. It's a really good strategy. Okay, now let's get into this whole concept of branding. Yes.
Remember that whatever company you're looking at, make sure you know what internships they're actually going for. So.
Correct. Do your research prior. That's why we put together this flyer with the companies that are on it. Do your research of who's going to be there so you know what you're going to talk to them about. Okay. I did forget to highlight the dress code. Okay. Business professional. That for gentlemen, that is a tie. That's what makes your outfit business professional versus business casual, is that you do need to have a tie on. Okay. Kashmeet, tell us about ways that you can share your resume or your LinkedIn contact. What do you do?
You can have like a QR code on your phone and tell them like if you want me, you can scan it or you can ask them because it's always there on the app, so it's easier to.
So you get right via LinkedIn, so that way when you're sharing, exchanging contact information, because remember, they're going to be talking to dozens of people while they're here. You want to get their contact information, right, so that way you can build a connection with them. And they can walk you through the front door, ideally.
Or if you have a link tree that's also applicable too.
Yeah, there we go. That's a good one too. Look at all of the tips and strategies y'all are giving. Okay, so you hear us talk about this whole idea of brand. You need to remember that your brand, your individual personal brand, should conjure up some thoughts and feelings about you. That's what makes you memorable. If we can't remember you, right, they're going to be here talking to dozens of your other flyers. They're going to then go to another college on Thursday, talk to dozens of more students, and then on Friday, another, right, that's what campus recruiters do. They just go from college to college to college, talking to students. Your brand is meant to be memorable. So you walk away, you're done talking to them, you walk away, you immediately want them to have a thought or a feeling about you. Ideally, it's a good thought or a good feeling, right? If their feeling is that they hate your face, that's still a feeling, right? But you want it to be a positive feeling of, oh, wow, Cody is so prepared. Right? That's how they're going to remember you. A couple of things, this list is not meant to be exhaustive, but here are a couple of key ways you can start to work on building and expanding on your brand, right? It starts with credibility. If you want to be seen, if the feeling you want people to have or the thoughts that you want them to have is that you're a confident, well-prepared person, your behaviors need to indicate that, right? Because they're not going to say that you're confident if you walk up and you're staring at your feet the entire time that you're talking to them. So figure out what is the thought or feeling you want that person to have about you when you walk away, and then how do you align your behavior to that? That's how you drive credibility. Okay? Your online presence, all of you have 85 different social media accounts, I'm sure of it, right? Something that you need to know is employers still scrub social media accounts. I know this because I was a person who used to do this, and I had a person on my team who used to do this, right? So we decide we want to hire you. Before we give you a job offer, we go through your social media. We see you're doing weird things. You're liking weird content. You're following some suspect people, right? That absolutely can be a reason of why they don't extend you a job offer. And yes, that has been a reason of why I haven't extended job offers in multiple situations, okay? Visibility, all of this is about recognition. This is what you're trying to stand out. You're going to be the one person they remember out of the 1,000 students they talk to during internship season. And that number is not an exaggeration. As a person who used to go on campuses and be a campus recruiter, during internship season, we would talk to thousands of students. Okay, if you've got a strong brand, it's going to help you stand out. It's going to make you visible. Part of it is even in your attire. So please think methodically about what you're going to wear on Wednesday, because that might be something they remember you by.
Brush your teeth, smell good. Put on deodorant, yeah.
Oh, basic hygiene, okay? Right, brush those teeth, mouthwash, deodorant, all of that. Your clothes should be freshly pressed and or ironed, okay? Again, if you're struggling with the appearance pieces, you can come to us and say, Professor, my face is looking a little bit shiny. You got some blot powder? Yes, I always have that. Where you'll see us with all of the materials, here's some water. I can tell your lips are looking a little chapped, okay? Because we're gonna help you. Your first impression sometimes is your lasting impression. Again, this is how they remember you. Please don't think that they're going to remember you because you think that you're great. You are great. I know a lot of you. You are great. But doesn't mean that they're going to remember you. Okay, and we're going to go through a couple of ways of how you do that. Let's keep going. I talk a lot about your core beliefs. Your brand is anchored in your core beliefs. There are two audiences you have to think about as it relates to your core beliefs and your brand, okay? What's important to you? So you are the first and probably arguably the most important audience in this equation. What you believe, what matters to you. And then the other audience is these other human beings that you have to interact with, okay? They should know what your core values are. A lot of times they're going to help influence what your core values and core beliefs are. Okay, these are the two audiences that you have to remember when you're talking about your brand as it relates to your core beliefs. These are the two audiences you have to appeal to. Okay, they're just as important as you. Now, what you can start to do today is think about this brand that you're trying to build. If you haven't been, you're like, oh, I don't even know what brand is. All right, a couple things for you to start to think about. Here are the three most important pieces you want to keep top of mind as it relates to building your personal brand, right? The jumping off point is awareness. Again, what is it that you want people to think, feel, or believe about you? And then how are you putting that out there? They have to be aware that not only that you exist, but aware of what your actual brand is attempting to communicate. Is it a brand that's built on confidence? Okay, you've got to display those behaviors for them to get to that point, because then they start to make these associations. You say you want to be confident. When you walk up to the person, you're standing up straight, you've got a firm handshake. They're associating those things with confidence. So now they attach that to your personal brand. Oh, this person came up to me, they were polite, they were kind, they were energetic, right? All of these are associations they're starting to make. And then they make meaning about these associations. We want this person to come work here because they're kind, right? Kind people are patient people, they're team players. We want this person to come work here because they're prepared. We associate preparedness with intellect. We think people who are prepared are smart. Again, they take all of these things and then make meaning. And you want that to be good. Again, the thoughts and feelings, that's what that means. You want that to be positive. You come up to somebody and you're a little disarray, a little sloppy, you're sweat, right? They're gonna still make meaning. They're gonna engage in associations and make meaning. It's just not gonna be in the way you want it to. As you start to think about these things, you have to ask yourself, how do you now catalog these pieces? Right? How are you living them in your day-to-day life? We'll start with credentials, because you guys are already doing that in college, right? You're getting a high-quality education. Some of you are on sports teams. Some of you are in clubs. You're the president of the so-and-so club, right? All of those things are credentials. They're credentials, and you want to highlight. Okay. Social capital, who you know, and who those people know. And then last but not least, your cultural capital. This is the most interesting, unique stuff about you. What are those hobbies that you engage in? What do you like to do in your free time? That's what people are going to remember about you. And when there's going to be a question, we're going to have on a slide in a moment, and I'm going to share with you that when you see that question, they really want to hear more of the cultural capital stuff and less of the credential stuff. But we share a lot of the credentials when they want that, and I'll show you what the question is momentarily. Okay? Oh, look, we're already there. Okay. So again, the personal narrative, when we get into the framework, part of the framework says you have to share things about yourself. That's what an elevator pitch is, you're sharing things about yourself. You are framing that as a personal narrative. A lot of that will be a mixture of everything on the right hand. The mistake a lot of people make is they lean in too deeply to the credentials, forgetting that if I have your resume in front of me, I already know your credentials. Typically, we want to hear a lot of the stuff in the cultural capital. This is a very challenging question. I work with seasoned professionals who are still trying to figure out the best formula for answering this question. They are going to ask you this question during the session of tell me about yourself. You see here, I've underlined this, so clearly that means this is important. Don't recite your resume. If they wanted to know what was on your resume, the question would be, tell me about your resume. Okay, they already have the resume. They're going to make the assumption that you think they can't read, right? So when they're asking you this question, it's a mixture of this. Lean more into cultural capital than you would lean into credentials. The issue is that our instinct is to lean into our credentials. Okay? All right. Now, you also have to embody this brand. We make judgment assessments about you every 2 minutes. That's just the world we live in. Right, everybody, and we learned this in some other classes for those of you who are in that class, right, that there is this whole thing where we have an assumption and then judgments, we react, right, so you have to embody your brand in your day-to-day actions and your day-to-day behaviors, okay. The common instinct when someone asks us, how are you, is to say the very boring, uninteresting thing. We're good. No one's going to remember you after this. For any of you that interact with me, when you ask me how I'm doing, it's normally fantastic. I'm amazing. I'm living my best day yet, right? That is what people are going to remember. That, and it typically triggers a follow-up question. Fantastic. Tell me about that. I'm only feeling good. Why do you feel so fantastic? Okay, so when you get this question, how are you? If you respond good, just keep in mind, you're responding the way that 99% of the world responds. So you're not standing out. You're not embodying your brand. Okay? Now, let's get into the framework. Now we're going to get into the framework. This is the framework you're going to be practicing. I'm going to spend a couple minutes going through the framework, and then you're going to get a partner in the room and practice the framework in the room, okay? You must practice with one of us to exit the room. We didn't tell you that part. Okay, so you're going to practice with a seatmate as many times as you want to, and we practice. We'll stand up in a minute because we'll be giving you feedback on your posture. And then you're going to practice with one of us to exit the room, and we'll give you feedback on how you actually do this. Okay? So it starts with introducing yourself. There's 3 parts to the elevator pitch. Introducing yourself. It's typically going to go anywhere from 30 seconds to 2 minutes. You're going to start with, hopefully, a very energizing greeting. This is what you say when you're walking up to them. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good to meet you. But it should be very, very energizing. Think about your body language. When we say smile big, in case you didn't know what this actually means, we want to see every tooth in your mouth. That is a big smile. It just is. Okay? So if I say smile big and you just smile with your mouth closed, that's not a big smile. A big smile is we can see every tooth in your mouth if those teeth are brushed, like my friend here said, okay?
Even if you don't like your smile, it still shows confidence.
100%. Embodying the brand, it shows confidence even if you don't like the smile. Stand up straight. No backpacks on Wednesday. None. Okay, if you bring it with you, you can leave it by my foot. I'm going to be in there. There'll be a lot of faculty members in there, but no backpacks on your body. It messes with your posture. Okay? You can bring a portfolio if you want to have your notes and if you want to have your resume. This is appropriate. Okay, a bag, no bags. It messes with your posture. Okay? You're going to lean in for the firm handshake. It's very robotic when you step up and you do this. Very robotic. Okay, you're going to walk up and you're going to lean in. You're going to lean in for that handshake. Right? And firm handshake. They're going to tell you if it's not firm. Okay? Somebody just told us in the room that they realized that they did a weaker handshake with a woman. That was interesting. They learned it in real time about themselves. Okay, so firm handshake. Doesn't matter if the person's a woman or if it's a man. Firm handshake. Okay? Maintain eye contact the entire time. When you're introducing yourself, you do not shift your vision. It's eye contact the entire time. So this is the first piece of your introduction. Now you're going to share your name. We're still in the introducing yourself phase. Share your name. Don't say your full name. That feels a little odd when you're like, my name is so-and-so and so-and-so. Okay. If your name is a little bit complicated to pronounce, right? Mine is, so I already know. Enunciate your name if it's necessary. They will like this. We absolutely hate when we mispronounce someone's name. We can't stand it, and we feel like it makes us look like idiots. So when you enunciate it for us, we're so grateful that you just did that. So that way we won't mispronounce your name. Okay? Include the soft compliment. Notice it says soft, not weird or creepy, or right? We love to be complimented. Everybody loves to be complimented. And an example of a soft compliment is you just acknowledging that you're excited to meet them and you're excited that they're there. Thank you so much for coming out and meeting us. We're so glad to have you here. So glad to have a few minutes chatting with you today. Okay? Your body language, you're still standing up straight and you're still maintaining the eye contact. We're still in the introduction phase, my friends. Okay, so the eye contact stays strong. You're building intimacy that way. Okay? Then, please wait for them to share their name too. Okay? Because sometimes you just get up and you want to get it done, so you just start doing this, and then you forgot you've been talking for 5 minutes, and this person has not said a single thing. If that happens, you've made a mistake. And it's okay, just pause and say, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. That's all you have to do if that mistake does happen. Okay? Because I get it, you're nervous. Remember their name, because you're going to be using their name as you talk to them. That's how you build intimacy with people. So when they tell you the name, remember it. If you didn't catch it, ask them to say it again. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Can you give it to me one more time? Okay. Because then, while you start to talk to them, now you're gaining consent and agreement to have a discussion with them. What you're also doing here is you're prepping me for what you're about to talk to me about. Again, I like it because now I'm prepared and I don't feel like an idiot. Right? So you might say, hey, Michelle, if it's okay with you, I would like to spend a few minutes talking about the internships you have listed on your website. Is that okay? And she's going to say yes. right? One, you gained her consent to have a conversation instead of rattling things off, right? When you guys practice, we're going to give you feedback because your instinct is going to be to rattle things off. And we're going to say, pause, pause. You didn't even get my name, and you also didn't prep me for what we're going to talk about, okay? So gaining consent also helps them know what you're about to talk to them about, so they're prepared. Body language, again, we're still in the introduction phase, my friends. All of this is happening in under 2 minutes, okay? You're still straight, right? The posture's good, and you're still maintaining that eye contact. So this is the introducing yourself phase of the elevator pitch. Now, let's move into the sharing more about yourself. So remember, there's 3 pieces to this. Introducing yourself, sharing information about yourself, and going for the strong close. Okay, so this is the second component. Now you have to find ways to weave in information about yourself. It shouldn't be you rattling off your resume. Okay, your resume is not that interesting, my friends. Right? No one is. I'm a seasoned professional. My resume is not as interesting than the cool details I'm going to share. I talk about my dog, your instinct, what kind of dog do you have? And now you started a conversation. So here's an example, right? Because you're trying to get into some storytelling. This person is sharing they're the president of the Women in Business Club. There's a really good detail right there. And then they're coming in with what the question is, right? Hey, I'm just wondering, what tips and tricks can you share with me about how to make my internship application stick out? Because I'm getting ready to submit an application in the next week or so. Right? Any tips or tricks you can share with me? Okay. So that's the sharing more about yourself. Don't rattle off details. This is not a checkbox exercise. You're building intimacy here. Okay? The other pieces you have to think about is then what are these targeted questions that you're asking? Remember, you walked up to them to have a conversation with them. Don't make them do the heavy lifting. They didn't walk up to you. You walked up to them. So you need to be asking them targeted questions. Right here is just a couple of examples. You can't do this if you didn't do research on the companies. You need to do research on the companies in order to be able to ask these targeted questions. And these are just samples. Okay? The body language, the posture is always great the whole time. Always, always. As when you practice, we're going to have you stand up so we can start to give you feedback on your posture. Okay? Now, you do want to make sure that you're standing close enough to hear them. If the way you're standing to them is weird or inappropriate, right, I'm going to watch their body language. Right, you guys are interacting, I'll be watching you and watching their body language, so I can tell if something's not right. But I will come up, slightly pinch you under the arm. They won't know that that's what I'm doing. You'll feel it. It won't hurt, so you won't be like, ow! Right? Then I'll say, step back. Step back. Okay. Oh no, that one, I pull your arm. So that's telling you, step back. Again, I'm so good at it. The recruiter doesn't know that's what I'm doing. You'll just feel it. So then you know that's me telling you, step back for a second, because you're standing a little bit too close to them and you're making them uncomfortable. Okay? Eye contact, when you're speaking, laser focused. When they're speaking, so it doesn't feel like you're staring, you have to find the right times to look away for a second. Okay? But when you're talking, don't wander. Don't wander. Okay? When you're speaking, laser focused. When they're talking, find appropriate ways to look away for a second, so it doesn't look like you're just staring them down, because that's uncomfortable too. Okay? Last but not least, people forget the close. They forget the strong close. You're going to do your presentations and then you're like, that's it. That's like we're finished. There has to be a strong close. Don't just stop talking. You have to bring the conversation to a close, okay? This is opposite from how you opened. Opening was energizing, closing, you're now being a little bit more warm. And how you use your body language absolutely can influence how warm you appear, okay? Sally, here's another good, soft compliment. This conversation has truly been delightful, right? Recognizing you have more of my flyer colleagues, there's going to be a line. You have more of my flyer colleagues to chat with. I just have one more question for you. You just weaved in a detail. You're considerate. You're considerate, right? Again, these are the ways that you're weaving in details by saying, hey, I recognize you got more people to talk to, so I don't want to take up too much of your time, but can I ask you one last question? You're signaling also that you're getting ready to close the conversation. Okay? You want to find a way to exchange information. If you are impressive, that person's going to walk you through the front door. We've been talking about this concept of walking you through the front door. Today, you really need a connection. You really need a connection to help you land interviews. So if you had a really great conversation with this person, gather their contact details. right? You might ask for a business card, right? Again, read the situation, right? So she talked about sometimes you'll find that people just aren't interested in talking to you. You might have just missed the mark. It happens. It's okay. There's a whole bunch of employers there. And if it feels like you just missed the mark, then you might not ask for the contact information because it just might not feel right for you to do so. Okay. Again, you're using the body language. The hand over the heart is always this feeling of appreciation. I'm so appreciative for you to come out and meet with us. Okay. Again, this is warm is what you're going for. Okay. Any questions? We just closed out what this is all about. Y'all are now going to get ready to practice. Framework's really easy to follow, right? 3 things: introduce yourself, share more information, and close it out strong. Yeah? So you're going to practice with each other. You're going to stand up because we're going to be watching your body language. So practice with each other. And then when you're ready to, because you can't leave the room until you actually practice with one of us for us to give you feedback on how well you did.